to the stream. My name is Elise. Welcome to my tea table. Happy Friday night. It's Best Life Friday. We get together every Friday night. We sit at the tea table and we talk about different topics, a whole variety of different topics, about how we can all put ourselves on the path towards the best life. Oh, thank you. I figured that this would be appropriate as today's conversation is essentially on fertility. As I got the birds and the bees and the bunny here. Yeah, so today's topic, we're going to be talking about fertility, or, as you may like to say, sex, but we're not going to be talking about sex. We're going to be talking about specifically fertility. And, fertility is a subject that, maybe not fertility exactly, but like all the things associated with it, I feel oftentimes get tabooized. And these topics are not taboo in this space. In fact, really healthy thing to be talking about. And it's something that everybody, regardless of your status of like being single or being married or wanting children, or already have had children, or maybe you want children in the future, or you never want children at all, like regardless of your status in that sense, you still have to think about these things and know about these things. And it's really silly how tabooized all of this has become. And some news came out over this past week, kind of went viral, a lot of people sharing, specifically around the vaccine, the COVID vaccine, that it causes infertility in women, which is completely inaccurate. We can look at some news sources for that, but I think it's unnecessary. But there is something really important that is happening, just like what happens with any other stress that women deal with. There's effects to your cycles. And I was actually inspired by this viral news loop that went around this past week, that it's actually a positive thing. People are saying that the vaccine is causing infertility. So if you want to have children as a woman, you shouldn't take the vaccine. But I'm making the argument that perhaps it's actually helping, because it's helping normalize the conversation around it. That, okay, they're talking about menstrual cycles in the news. Wow, this is not a taboo thing to be talking about. This is not a shameful thing for us to be talking about, which in most mainstream media and most social media, talking about these things is very taboo. It's very disgusting or very unladylike to talk about these things. And don't worry, I'm not going to be talking in detail tonight. There are several things that I want to preface before we get deep into this conversation. The first one is, I am not going to be going into details talking about these things that may make you feel uncomfortable. I guarantee there's going to be some things talked about tonight that will make you feel a little uncomfortable, and that's okay. And the reason why it may make you feel uncomfortable is because of the second thing that I want to preface is that nothing in tonight's conversation is sexualized. Not one bit of it is intended to be sexualized, that I consent to it being consensualized. So if I start talking about something, in no way am I inviting this conversation to be a conversation about sex. This is a conversation about our best life. This is the conversation about happiness. This is conversation about our autonomy and our freedom to know our bodies, to know our partners' bodies too. And so this is a conversation not just for women, this is really for men as well. And it's interesting because right before coming on, I was talking with another friend on it, a woman, who felt it was a little uncomfortable. And so we had to work out a lot of things to understand, like, why was it uncomfortable? And ultimately it came down to like the societal norms, is that if you ever talk about some type of sexual organ or a sexual process, there's this like immediate insinuation that we're talking about sex, that we're talking about that we're wanting to be sexualized. And just because I may be talking about a couple things that involve sex tonight, it does not mean that I want to talk about sex with you all, or that I'm inviting myself as a sexual being or sexual object for you. But let's have a lot of fun in this conversation. Feel free to ask questions. Of course, we're going to be drinking tea. I should do that first. I should drink some tea first before we get deep into this. I did find a couple of Google Scholar articles to look over, peer-reviewed articles to look over on, like, really understanding, like, of all ages, from children to teenagers to young adults to grown adults to even elderly adults, the importance of awareness around fertility, what it means for our education level, what it means for our philosophy, what it means for our overall potential for happiness, which is, of course, what this segment every Friday night is about. So Reddit, if you all are interested, I do stream to Twitch 5 days a week. I only stream to Reddit 1 day a week, which is Friday night, so you're getting me tonight. I like to come on Friday nights and hang out with you all on Reddit. Tlet, that's our channel on Twitch, or you can simply go to tlet.tv. I don't know what tea to drink. What, Eric, are you still here? What tea do you think I should drink tonight? And I don't mind if it's high caffeine. I had a long day. I had a long labor-intensive day, so I don't mind if I drink something that's gonna keep me going all night. And we are welcome to keep this conversation going as long as needed. But again, the whole genesis of this conversation happened. Oh, Baozhang. Yeah, great. Oh, you're having some Fushuang. Oh, great. Then I'll get some Baozhang. That's a great idea. My Reddit just turned down. That's too bad. That's a good idea. I haven't drank Baozhang in a little while. I just don't know if I have any, like, right here with me right now. I may have to jump to the other room to get some. But that's a good idea, Eric. Thank you for that suggestion. Yeah. Yeah, we're not talking about sex tonight. But yeah, if you have questions about sex, as long as you're not sexualizing me or any other member of chat or any other person, known person, like, or any person, period. That's not what's going on here. But if you have like a legitimate question about sex, I am happy to try to answer it. Get our bunny up. I guess my internet connection is slow. To be expected. Okay. I think I have to go get my tea. I'll be right back. Didn't grab the Baozhang. I was on my way to grab the Baozhang, and instead I got this honey oolong. Same producer, very gentle oolong tea on the green side. But I was just craving this. I saw it. I was like, oh, that's perfect. So this is a Taiwanese style rolled oolong, bald oolong. Boo! I know. Boo boo. don't be talking smack about my tea choices. Well, Eric, if you feel comfortable, you are welcome to ask whatever you like. This is a safe place again, the only rule here is as long as you're not sexualizing me, as long as you're not sexualizing yourself or someone else in chat or just someone else, period, we can have a healthy conversation about sex. We really can. And no one will be offended. No one's going to call the cancel culture police. We can really talk about these things, no problem. Yeah, we're talking about fertility. And the genesis of why I'm talking about fertility, every Friday night I do come on to Reddit, hang out with you guys. I drink tea. Of course, can ask questions or answer questions about tea for you. But I talk on a different topic. So sometimes I talk about things such as sleep or breath, like breathing, or diet, food, sustenance, those types of things. But today, I thought, okay, let's talk about fertility because some big news made it into the viral news cycles that the vaccine causes infertility among women. And I looked into it to see, because I got the vaccine myself, and I don't know what I want in my fertility future, but I definitely don't want anything affected by that. And I came to learn that it actually does not cause infertility, but like many other stresses in life, it can cause a woman's cycle, the cycle that she is currently in, to have some shifts to it. And that in itself, for someone that's trying to conceive, somebody who is trying to have a baby, could cause some issues with them becoming pregnant in that cycle, simply because she's not tracking her ovulation correctly, when the egg drops. So a woman is only fertile for two days out of the month, or out of her cycle, right? And so that's really important to differentiate, because every woman's cycle is completely different, and every cycle is different as well. I think all the vaccines, they're saying all three of the vaccines have had reported of women saying, a prevalence of women saying that their cycles differed. And I'll be honest, I got the vaccine and my cycle did change, a lot. My cycle never changes. And that's why, prior to this and, kind of digging into this and realizing about my own fertility, I was like, dang, I, really didn't know much about my fertility. I just, assumed it was good because, I was always regular. It was always the same thing. I always, could, forecast and schedule when my cycles were happening. And for the past few months, I've really been a lot more conscious about it and realized, actually, I didn't know shit about it. And I consider myself to be a pretty intelligent, worldly person that knows a lot of things and been around the world, but the simplest thing, that's the most primal thing. That's the most primal work that we have in this world. I'm not making any judgments, and no one here today should be making any judgments about anybody's, path and willingness or wanting of having children or not having children. This is completely irrelevant to what we're talking about today. What we're talking about today is, empowering our own knowledge of our own bodies, including the men, right? So we'll talk about men's fertility as well. But really, how magical is that if not only is the woman aware of her own body, but if she's married or in some type of partnership with a man, that he is also aware of those cycles as well, and that fertility as well. I feel this news cycle about the vaccines causing infertility could actually be a great blessing of just what it did with me. Got me to think about whoa, what's going on? Fertility, interesting, cycles changing, okay, hormones, what? These were things that I should have been thinking about since, I first went on this journey when, I was a teenager. But I never thought about those things. And modern medicine absolutely does not think about those things. They still advocate that we are all on this 28-day magical cycle. Oh, you have a good question. Thank you. And nothing is unrelated. Like the only rule tonight is that like do not sexualize me, do not sexualize yourself, or do not sexualize anybody else in chat, please. Like that's the only rule. Outside of that, we can talk about everything, okay? So we got a question on Reddit. What are your thoughts on asexuality and want and need for children and family? That is an incredible question, right? And anybody else that's watching, if you have comments on this, please feel free to add to the questions, add your own thoughts or comments to it, because I think that this is a common thing that like not only is asexuality becoming a lot more accepted and normalized in American society, like all types of sexuality, asexuality, sexuality, like the varieties of sexualities that we can be or whatever. Like we probably haven't even discovered all of them yet, but it's got to have been a longer thing than just like modern times. Like, oh, just now people are starting to be asexual. People have probably been asexual for a long time, certain people. And just because they're asexual, like maybe they're asexual for certain reasons, but when it comes to actual procreation or wanting to like parent children, this is completely unrelated. And this is a good thing to say that like the whole struggle that I had about even doing this stream tonight, because my friend, I was talking to her before starting and she was like, oh, this is so uncomfortable. Like, how are you going to be comfortable doing this? And it's like, I'm comfortable talking about this stuff because for me, it is like completely not about sex. Like, it is not about sex at all. Like, just because I want to talk about these things does not mean I want to like have sex with people and I'm feeling like I want to do that. No. Like, they are completely unrelated yet completely related things, right? And so like that question alone, like how could a person that identifies with being asexual, so asexual means that you don't have sexual desires. In fact, I'm gonna look up the official definition because I like to do that. I like to go to the dictionary. Okay, so according to WebMD, asexual is the lack of sexual attraction to others or a low interest in sexual activity. So that's it, as simple as that. It just means that you don't have like a sexual desire. Just because you don't have a sexual desire doesn't mean that you don't want to parent children. Just like if you are not sexually, if as a female, as a woman, if you are not sexually attracted to men, you also have the right and the ability to want to mother children. It's the same thing. So fertility has nothing to do with sex. Yeah, at the same time, it has everything to do with sex. Oh, this tea is so good. It's so like nutty and light and sweet. Perfect tea to drink while having this kind of conversation. So, you know, I think that there's a lot of work to do, you know, like only recently have we started to normalize like lesbian couples being welcomed in the community. I'm sure there's still several communities here in the United States that don't welcome lesbian mother couples. But, you know, there's a whole industry that's like, you know, it does address, it's an industry that addresses infertility of men. So like when a husband and wife are having fertility issues because of the man, which is in most cases when a couple is like really having trouble having children, it's usually the men's fertility that's the issue than the woman's. Although women can have that issue, yes. And so there's a whole industry of these like sperm banks that supply sperm to couples that can't conceive either because of infertility in the men or because they are same-sex couples, women particularly. So it's great. It's great that this industry has been normalized, but if you go read about it, and I'm not going to read about it tonight, but like if you are curious about it, and I'm telling you that this is a cool little rabbit hole to go research, especially if this is something that's been on your mind, you know? There is like a whole industry of like sperm banks where you can go and you can donate and get paid. The sperm banks do pay for you to donate. And then the sperm banks will like clean and test the sperm, freeze it, and then couples that want the sperm can essentially just like browse through the catalog of the different genetics that they can choose from. But this whole industry is extremely costly. So it's kind of one of those privileges that you can get. It's not really accessible to marginalized people. But there's an even deeper rabbit hole that goes from there that's pretty much blown up since the pandemic of people taking their own power in the system, especially the donors. So I don't get it, like, and we're not here to judge, and I'm not here to, but I'm just letting you know how it is. Like, there are male donors that are genuinely wanting to help, and like they've been donating to sperm banks, and they know how backwards and disadvantaged that system is. And so they like create social networks online where you can like meet and work out a deal and like sign contracts and do it basically for free. Like, do it as safely as you can, but still like without the help of the clinics. That's a rabbit hole. Just go Google it, go find something about it if you're interested in it. And yeah, if you're a male and you are interested, maybe you're asexual, but you're interested in fathering children, you're interested in helping women that need help, like that could be an avenue to go down. It really can be. Oh, wow. Okay, so we got a very heavy, yeah, you're from East Africa. You know, I spent some time in West Africa, and I saw this all the time, and it fucking sucks. There's just so much ignorance. Like, there's ignorance where, like, I was in the Peace Corps, and so we, like, did a lot of, like, sensibilizations and awareness, and I'm just going to share this one story about the ignorance, and then we'll talk about the story you just said. But we were doing this AIDS bike ride. So for like a week long, we rode our bikes village to village, and we made a big circus, and we would make like a big play with like music when we'd ride to each village, and we talked to them about like education and awareness around HIV, which is a problem, you know, among certain segments of the population. And we'd be meeting with these people, and they'd be raising their hands to ask questions, and like we'd get the same questions every single time. And like, I kid you not, there was this like idea, I have no idea who started it, how it spread so fast, but they had this idea that if you contracted HIV, if you had sex with a virgin, you'd get rid of it, you'd kill yourself. What the heck? Like, there's so many layers of wrong there. Like, you know, there's so many layers of wrong here in the States where we are, or wherever you are. You know, there's a lot of like misogyny and issues with female empowerment, but like nothing on that level, like, and so prevalent. But our friend here, Lynn, on Reddit says, originally from East Africa, and some tribal men would beat and nearly kill their wives for causing infertility in the relationship. And it was probably his problem, not her problem. Like, in most cases, it's the men's like sperm count and sperm mobility over the woman's like ability to fertilize and, you know, implant an egg. But that's just, yeah, one example where ignorance is still there. And so let's not be ignorant. Like, as of like a few weeks ago, I was ignorant, and I'm a pretty intelligent person. Like, I was ignorant about my own body, and I feel like super empowered now, like super empowered now. And I've been talking to a couple of other female friends, and the same thing, you know, the same story. It's like, oh yeah, I started tracking. I had one friend, I believe she was trying to conceive for like 15 years. And it wasn't until after a few years of actually like really tracking her cycle did she realize, oh, this is the thing that's up with me, versus like, you know, she just assumed I'm young, I'm athletic, I'm in good shape, I'm healthy, I should just be able to do this, you know. And she was in her relationship just trying. Oh, cool. Hey, Faith. What's up, girl? Oh, man. This tea is making me hot, though. I, like, totally was not hot before the stream, but now I'm hot. I think it's, like, the roastiness from the tea. I'm even, like, sweating a little bit, I think. Pretty hot. It's hot here in Vegas. Like, I think today we went over 100 degrees today. It's a big deal. It'll be like this for like the next 5 months, so it's okay. We'll live with it. We will live with it. Yeah, I don't have my fan. So like I'm in the warehouse now, and so we don't have like the central air conditioning system in here. That I do have like a swamp cooler, but the swamp coolers for the building don't open until Monday. They don't turn on until Monday. It's like, this is friggin' Las Vegas. Why are you gonna wait until friggin' May to turn on the swamp coolers? And then all my fans are at my house. So I don't have any fan here, but I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm feeling good. Drinking some tea with you all. Listen to some cool Sojourner jams. I'll be honest, it's a little humid. I totally was not hot before starting. This tea got me. This tea got me for sure. Alright. Maybe I should have had that Valjean. That Valjean probably would have been a lot more cooling on me than this oolong tea. Oh, okay. Well, Faith, I guess I'll leave all the trolling for you. I'll do all the trolling on you if you're cool with that. Yeah. So yeah, that's the thing. Women are only fertile for 2 days out of the month. Men are fertile all the friggin' time. Like, as men get older, they start to lose some fertility, but like, generally. And like, I was reading an opinion somewhere about how ridiculous it is that all birth control, contraceptive products and innovations have all like really only been marketable towards women. When it's like, if we're really trying to control fertility, shouldn't we be like focusing on the men? Because they're the ones that are fertile all the time, while women are only fertile for a couple of days out of the month or out of their cycle. Yeah, we gotta like get rid of that term, the month, because like even like the normal 28-day cycle they say is not even a month, right? And then like what's been getting under my skin on this is like that whole joke. Hey, much love, much love, much love. Thanks for saying hello from Seattle. You know, there's that joke like, oh, it must be that time of the month. Like, you know, you're in a bad mood, or like maybe you bit someone's head off and you're just like, ah. And they say, oh, it's gotta be that time of the month. And it's like, really? You know, now that I've been like really studying my own body, it's pretty much, yeah, it's not a month, Eric. That's right. That's why it's like so stupid how we call it a month. I mean, it's kind of a month. I mean, we can call it a moon cycle. Like, that is more accurate. But like, to call it an actual month. But, and then to say, is it that time of the month? Is like, it's always that time of the month for us. Like, I think there's like 3 or 4 times that all women have certain like hormone waves throughout the cycle that can cause irritability, that can cause bloating, that can cause water retention, that can cause all those things that like may make us act different. You know, and I would guarantee, I would bet any guy that ever says that to their girlfriend or to their female colleagues or to their friends, any guy that's ever said that is thinking that time of your month is when you're bleeding, which is a shitty time. You know, it's pretty crappy dealing with that. But really, like the PMSing and the like bloating and the crazy emotions, like those actually don't typically happen during the bleeding time. But, you know, because we never talk about these things publicly, because it's not normalized, boys and men, especially when they're educated on these things, it's like, oh, they bleed once a month and just leave them alone during that time. It's like, oh man. You know, I know these are subtleties. Hungry Wolf, thanks for that. It's the before and the afters, and in the middle too. Yeah, so it's a few days before, or could be a few days before. That's why it's different for all women. In all cycles, it's different. It could be a couple times before, and then it'll happen again maybe like 4 or 5 days after. And the cycles can vary greatly, even between the cycles. So, moral of the story, that's a shitty joke, or a shitty observation, or a shitty thing to say. Like, I think that, like, men, when they say that, and by the way, I don't think I've ever heard a woman say, oh, is it time of her month? Like, I've never heard a woman say that. I've only heard men say that. But, like, I'm sure men are, like, well-intentioned when they use that. Like, they're wanting to be respectful. It's like, oh, is that, you know, should I leave you alone? Are you doing your thing right now? But no, women don't like it. And like, I think we've like been communicating that for a long time, that we don't like hearing that. Like, for the guys out there, for the men out there that have said that to a woman, like, did you ever get a positive response from a woman after saying that? She probably became more angry. Oh, we got a cool fun fact from Reddit over here, dealing with the months, obviously. So fun fact, there was a proposal to have 13 months of 28 days, which is 364 days, plus one free day for a year. That's a cool idea. Hungry Wolf knows what's up. You get punched. You get punched when you say shit like that. But Hungry Wolf, like, people say it. I feel like I've even had people say it in professional context to me. Like, what? Oh man, it's so funny. That's so funny. Hungry Wolf, thank you for participating in this conversation, as uncomfortable as you think it may be. Like, this is not meant to be uncomfortable. This is meant to be totally comfortable, totally normalizing. No one is being sexualized here, but we are talking about sex. We are talking about the birds and the bees and all the great things in between. Thanks for that fun fact. I like that. Hey, Hungry Wolf, what do you think about 13 months that are 28 days each? I think it makes a lot of sense, because, like, I'm tired of doing this January, February, March, April, May, June. I don't know how many days are in the month. And then, yeah, it'll help some ladies get their period and cycle on the exact same cycle. But, like, I've never known a woman to have a 28-day cycle. Sometimes it's a little less, sometimes a little more. I've never actually known someone with the actual magical 28. I heard a story about this couple that got married. When was there only 10 months, Hungry Wolf? I don't remember that. I've always remembered the 12 months on all the knuckles. I don't remember there ever being 10 months. But yeah, this couple got married, and they were from a conservative, traditional family background. So at least the woman was virgin. I don't know about the man, but they were said to be like a virgin couple, got married, and were trying to start the family right away. And they did. They succeeded. She became she became pregnant very quickly. And when they went to the doctor for their first appointment, the doctor did his little calculation of like when date of conception was using the 28-day cycle. And so doctors still fucking do that. Like when you go, like, and they try to make forecasts about your due date and like when your next appointments need to be and whatever. The doctor was like, oh, well, according to our calculations, you conceived before the wedding day and your medical insurance didn't kick in for the wife until your wedding day. So you're not covered. So the insurance refused to cover them just because the stupid doctor couldn't figure out that the woman's cycles were just differently and accused her of being like, what do you call that, a fornicator or whatever. So sad. And that's like modern medicine. And modern medicine is still advocating for this stuff. And I've heard some theories. So there is a very strong theory that I believe that like the type of stuff I'm talking about today doesn't make money. So modern medicine doesn't want anything to do with it. Like teaching a woman how to track her own cycles and also teaching the men how to support their partners in tracking their own cycles to understand their fertility doesn't make anybody money. But, you know, hormonal medications make you money. Birth control. Other forms of contraception make you money. So yeah, there's a little bit of a theory that modern medicine has not advocated for this type of stuff. Yeah, it's true. It's so true. And like, so on Reddit, Jay says it's nonsense to think that doctors only prescribe based on money. Like, and you know, not all doctors are like this. Like, I've met doctors that like are like, bullshit. Like, I'm not doing this anymore. I met a dentist, actually. I worked with a dentist, one of our clients. He comes to me and he is like, you know, I've built this career. I'm a very successful dentist. I could become infinitely more successful and infinitely more wealthy in my practice, you know, prescribing things that are only going to make my patients more unwell so they come back for more service. He like said that's how the dental industry works. And he's like, I'm done with this. You know, I've got 3 kids of my own. All I want to do is like inspire my kids to be better people and really affect my industry in a great way, other than bringing it more down. And so he says, I want to make a boba tea shop where all of the drinks are healthy, like have reduced sugar, and teaching children especially how to acquire a diet lower in sugar, which will, in the long run, help their dental health. But unfortunately, it is corruption. The health industry is totally corrupt. And it's so sad because they're meant to be helping us. You know, so like this reactive kind of corporate machine that is our modern medicine is pretty corrupt. Okay, so you say doctors don't want people to become diabetic. Of course they don't want you to become diabetic, but if they really wanted us to not become diabetic, they would go attack the food industry. They would go and like, they would actually do some things. Like if you really did want to fight diabetes, that's where you would go. You wouldn't go to like the hospital. Because like the hospital, like what we know as a hospital, is a reactive place. It's like where you go after you have the diabetes. It's not where you go to like acquire the life skills and the lifestyle to not get diabetes. Like if you were to go to a doctor, like an Ayurvedic doctor in India or like a traditional Chinese medicine doctor in China, they are trying to keep you proactively well, which is, wow, yeah. High fructose corn syrup. Yep. That's even worse. Like, that's a place making money, and they wouldn't dare touch that industry. So that's an interesting thought. You're right. It is not their job to lobby against food. Would it be their job to advocate with their patients about food? So then their patients would have the resources and skills to do that work? Because, like, I'll tell you my journey with food. I'm a food scientist, but I was not originally interested in food science to study. I was originally interested in dietetics, like nutrition, because I had an eating disorder when I was a teenager, and I was just like obsessed with food and diet and all that. And my first semester in my classes, we had like a class where they basically like show us what our career is going to look like. And they bring in all these alum who give their stories and their experiences. And all of them had to do internships in hospitals. Like, that's like when you're a dietitian, you have to do like 5 or 6 years of study, then you have to do at least a year of an internship in a hospital. And then you can go off and do what you want to do. If you want to have a private practice, like most of them do end up just becoming social workers or stay working in the hospital. And every single one of these people's stories, all the same. They were all like having these like chips on their shoulder about how upsetting it is to work in the hospital environment, because when you're the dietitian in the hospital, you are like second in priority to the doctor from the patient's point of view, and also from the hospital's point of view too. But like they're saying from the patient's point of view, when you go in and meet with them and advise with them of like, here are your like lifestyle things that are going to be needed and prescribed, i.e. diet, for your health condition or whatever, your treatment. And then the doctor walks in right after you with like a bottle of pills and just tells them, hey, this is going to help fix everything for you, which magically somehow they do end up fixing whatever they say they're going to fix. It gives the patient this like very easy to access convenience and prioritization of the medication and what the doctor has to say over what the dietitian has to say. And I ran. As soon as I heard those stories, I'm like, I am done. I'm done with trying to be a dietitian. Like, I will never be less than a doctor. Like, if I'm going to pursue that field, I want the work that I'm doing to be from the patient's perspective, not from the business. I'm not about money, not about those things, but like from the patient's perspective, like the person that you're interacting with and trying to inspire, trying to work with. If they're constantly going to tell you, boo, I don't like what you're saying to me, I'm just going to listen to the doctor. Man, that's got to be so defeating. I don't know. I think a lot of reliance has been put on pharmaceuticals over lifestyle stuff. Yeah, that's it. I'm sure that there are some great doctors that do say things, or they just say things as formalities, but then in actuality, my father deals with some health issues, and he's been dealing with them for a long time, and he has so much faith in the medicine part of it, and so much resistance against the lifestyle part of it. And it's just been really hard. It's been really hard. But slowly, my dad, he's doing the things, but it's almost out of necessity. It's almost like he like fights against it, and then like as soon as his body tells him, oh no, you're not doing that anymore, then he'll listen to his body. But it's hard. Yeah, it's hard. Because the medicine, the pharmaceuticals are just such an easy step. Hey Jonelle, thanks for stopping in and saying hello. I wish you could stick around, talk with us on this topic. It's an empowering, important one. Oh, Eric, yes. Thank you for sharing that with us. You know, that's the first step. What you just typed there, Eric, is the first step of your healing. I mean, not your first step. I mean, you've already been doing a lot of steps, but like it is one of the big steps of your healing. Yeah, you're right. You're right for pointing that out, Jay. So yeah, you pointed out that I insinuated that all doctors do not have an interest in us becoming, or they have an interest in us becoming sicker. Yes, it's true. I was incorrect in saying that. Yeah, I was incorrect in saying that. Thank you for pointing that out. Yeah, I don't think it's a malicious thing. I think though, like when money gets involved and when there's like so many layers of other things and like you're disconnected from your patient when all these other decisions come in, and then money is like an overarching thing over all of it. It's there's a fine line between what the interest actually is. But yeah, of course, no one has an interest in actually getting people like more sick. That's a very inhumane thing. I mean, I'm sure there's probably some people, but this dentist in particular, he's like, yeah, I've built up a very successful career. I could continue to make it successful. I could franchise my practice and I could do all of these things, but ultimately, this whole industry is like so reactive and so dependent upon these reactive cycles to happen over and over again. Yeah, my friend is actually here in Vegas. He's a very successful real estate developer, and he used to develop transition care, like care facilities. So like they're not necessarily hospitals, but then they're not necessarily like hospices. They're like places where people that have had like major surgery or major medical treatments, like it's too expensive to keep them at the hospital, but then they're not quite ready to be independent at home. And so like my friend was building all of these like care facilities here in Las Vegas. And he was telling me that like in that industry is like the care facilities are designed in a way, developed in a way where the people will like just be cycling through this over and over again, and they like anticipate that patients are going to be cycling through this versus developing in a way where you're consciously trying to set up your patients for success so that they don't have to come back. It's like, yeah, they develop and design knowing that people are just constantly going to be in this cycle, because as long as there's insurance and as long as there's Medicaid or whatever is being used to fund these things, there's going to be money to be made in this system. So yeah, you're right. Like an interest in becoming sicker is definitely not the right way to put it. It's just there's a business model. It is such a preventative measure. It is like a lifestyle, and that's what we do here. Like, I stream about tea. I'm a tea importer. I work with tea farmers all over the world and help distribute their tea to businesses and consumers. And a lot of what I advocate for is lifestyle. And on Friday nights, I like to come on the stream and talk about different topics, about how we can like find our own path. Like all of our paths are going to be completely unique. Like no one has the same exact path. But we can talk about themes in a general way in which we can see our way on that path towards the best life that we can build for ourselves. And so yeah, health lifestyles are definitely a deep conversation, especially proactive lifestyle things are a deep part of our community and our work here. Well, Eric, I would like to support you. I'd like to support you in that, and helping you evolve from your awareness of what you just said towards taking, efforts towards other ways. I'd like to help you. I'm there for you. I've always been there for you. All right, let's get studious. And I know I joke a lot. Oh, thank you, Eric. I appreciate that. I know you're there for me. I know you're there for me, and I appreciate you for that. I do. I really do. All right, so the first article we're going to look at, and again, Reddit, if you have questions about tea, feel free to ask me. You want to ask what's going on here? I got my tea here I'm drinking. Look at that beautiful tea. Ooh, so delicious. So delicious. Yeah, feel free to change the subject, ask what you want to ask. I am here for you. This is for you. But do not sexualize me. All right, so this article is coming from Digital Medicine. This is from nature.com. So this does look like a peer-reviewed article. Like there's lots of graphs and charts and studious, smart things going on here. But let's just read the summary. All right, bye, Jay. Thank you so much for spending time with me tonight. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. Rest well. And drink lots of tea. Drink lots of tea. Thank you so much for your contribution to the conversation. For most women of reproductive age, assessing menstrual health and fertility typically involves regular visits to the gynecologist or another clinic. While these evaluations provide critical information on an individual's reproductive health status, they typically rely on memory-based self-reports, and the results are rarely, if ever, assessed at the population level. In recent years, mobile apps for menstruation tracking have become very popular, allowing us to evaluate the reliability and tracking frequency of millions of self-observations, thereby providing an unparalleled view, both in detail and scale, on menstrual health and its evolution for large populations. In particular, the primary aim of this study was to describe the tracking behavior of the app users and their overall observation patterns in an effort to understand if they were consistent with previous small-scale medical studies. So this is interesting. I chose this article because I found it very interesting how it's big data. I love big data. So, no, we're definitely not talking about sex because we're talking about big data, nerdy shit over here. The secondary aim was to investigate whether their precision allowed the detection and estimation of ovulation timing, which is critical for reproductive and menstrual health. Retrospective self-observation data was acquired from 2 mobile apps dedicated to the application of the symptothermal fertility awareness method, resulting in a data set of more than 30 million days of observations. 30 million days, wow. Oh, Reddit, I lost you guys again. I won't go back on Reddit. Sorry, buddies. The analysis of the data showed that 40% of the cycles in which users were seeking pregnancy had recordings every single day. With a modeling approach using hidden Markov models to describe the collected data and estimate ovulation timing, it was found that follicular phases, average duration and range were larger than previously reported, with only 24% of ovulations occurring at cycle days 14 to 15, while the luteal phase duration and range were in line with previous reports, although short luteal phases, 10 days or less, were more frequently observed in up to 20% of cycles. That's a big deal, actually, because short luteal phases do affect fertility. The digital epidemiology approach represented here can help to lead to a better understanding of menstrual health and its connection to overall women's health, which has historically been severely understudied. Well, thank you for observing that. That's nice. So, I'm going to try to pull from this study what is valuable for our conversation tonight. I mean, there was already a lot in this summary here that's pretty important. I think what's important here to see is that it was found only 24% of ovulations occurring at cycle days 14 to 15. So this like myth that like your ovulation is going to happen exactly on these days of your cycle is dangerous, because only 24% occurred at that time. That means that 76% occurred at all other times, when any doctor that you talk to would tell you, oh, it's going to happen now. And it's like, oh, well, only 24% of women actually fall into that bracket. It's like only 24% of women have cycles that are 28 days long, which books and doctors and history and everybody had always said, oh, it's 28 days for everybody. And when it comes to your fertility and men, for your fertility with your partner, this is what you need to track to stop from getting pregnant. The ovulation day, which is only like less than a 2-day period. It's anywhere from 24 to 48 hours. So if you are off on that day and you're using, you know, a lot of these apps, like what they're talking about here, these apps, a lot of women are using apps to track things, which is great. It's empowering women to like understand their own cycles and what's going on in their body. A lot of these apps will like try to calculate this ovulation day for you, but your ovulation day is not like your period day. Like when you get your period, you know that day. Like, you know there are consequences and there are things that you have to do. When you ovulate, it's a little bit more nuanced than that. And so it's really hard to tell the app, oh, I ovulated on this day. There's ways to track it, and we could talk about that. That wasn't really the intent of this stream, but if someone has questions about that, we certainly can talk about it. And again, none of these things that we're talking about today are sexualized. Like, not trying to sexualize any of this. So here are the different things of tracking that ovulation cycle, those ovulation times, like 24 to 48 hours of every cycle. So you can use your body temperature or waking temperature. The cervical mucus quality and quantity. I mean, even sensation. So some people like can feel like their own sexual sensation during that time. And then the cervical position. This one right here, cervical mucus quality and quantity. You read it right. And this is totally normal. All right? Like, please do not feel uncomfortable with this. I understand if you feel uncomfortable with this. You know, as I was telling a friend earlier, when I would think about this thing, I like had always, from pop media, from movies, from, you know, whenever I heard older girls talk about it, it was always something like a no-no. Like, it means something's wrong when there's some mucus or there's something there. It means that there's something wrong. And no, it's a perfectly normal thing, and the consistency and the quantity of it changes throughout your cycle. And if you become comfortable with assessing it and understanding it and embracing it, like, you will totally understand your cycle every single time. But like, this is one of the big hurdles, you know? And like, if you're a man and you want to talk about this with your girlfriend or your wife, your partner, do not be disgusted by it. Like, most women are ashamed of it. Like, they wouldn't dare talk about that with their partner, because it's like, ooh, that means something's wrong. No, no, no. Like, that is a very natural thing. So I don't know, from my research and from my practice for my own tracking for myself, I found that to be like the most trustworthy, consistent, easiest thing that a woman can do. And a man can help with that. Why not? Have a little fun with it, right? If you're consenting and you are in a partnership with each other and you both consent to doing that, why not? All right, let's not talk about accuracy of the apps or okay, so this is an interesting chart. Let's look at this chart. So this is a fertility awareness history example from a user of one of these apps. So here's the start, and then every month. This is 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 1 year, year 2. So they were tracking for 3 years. I guess they didn't track here for a little bit of time. And you see how their mucus changes have been. This is kind of a hard chart to read. But this is the big data. After someone's been using their phone every month to track, okay, I had my period this day, that day, and these things. It's kind of cool. In hindsight, you can really look at it and understand, a lot about your cycles. And then if the app has all this data, it is possible that, machine learning could do some type of processing to forecast and predict where the cycle is going to be. Let's just drop right down to the results. So users of these two apps are found in over 150 countries, covering 5 continents. But the vast majority are from Europe and the Americas. Most Kindara users are based in the US and are trying to achieve pregnancy, while Sympto users mainly reside in Europe and use the app primarily to avoid pregnancy. Okay, so that's interesting. And that's to the point that all people, regardless if you're wanting children or not wanting children, this is important stuff to be in touch with. I don't know, was it FAM, observation? Was that some acronym I did not pick up earlier? Let me go back up here and try to see what that is. Is this fertility awareness? Is that what FAM means? Oh, fertility awareness methods. Okay. Okay, so standard cycles with FAM observations. Not the first cycle nor an ongoing cycle. Observation gaps shorter than 15 days. No mid-cycle period like bleeding, and cycle longer than 40 days. Cycle length was at least 4 days longer than the total number of days in which the bleeding was reported. Wow. How do they know that? I just don't know. I don't get that. Okay. And then, what is HMM? That's another acronym I missed. wish I had more time to read this before so I could have known what that is, but I don't know what HMM is. HMM. Let me look it up. The hidden Markov model. I still don't know what that is. Opening up another link. And it's another big article. This model not only achieves lower alignment error rate than the hidden Markov model, but also runs faster. It's similar in some ways to IBM model, but is much easier to understand. So this must have something to do with like computer processing. The uncertainty on the ovulation estimate was lower than 1.5 days. The confidence score equal or higher than 75 days. So this is like really reliable, intelligent tracking of the cycles. And there's still an error of 1.5 days, which that's about the time ovulation happens. So if you have your ovulation here and you're like 1.5 days off this side or that side, you're not hitting that window. And that's like, that can be a negative for both women that do want children and women that don't want children. So like, even with all the science behind it, it's really, really hard to be completely accurate. So, I mean, this is pretty obvious. So, like, women that are having sexual intercourse are tracking more. And that's true, you know, and that was, like, what I wanted to say about tonight's talk is that, like, even if you're a man, if you're going to be partaking in sexual activities, you got to know about this stuff. It can't be taboo. It can't be gross. It can't be not your problem. It is your freaking problem. It is your problem. But I mean, let's not call it a problem. It is your great privilege and honor to know about these things and to care about it. You know, so I think this chart represents that a lot. Oh, I see. So tracking every day. Yeah. Not tracking at all. So yeah, this is the people. Oh, this is interesting. So these are app users. So there's a whole bunch of app users. I guess they only use it when they're sexually active. When they're not, they don't like to use it at all. Because yeah, this one actually, okay, that's right. Because they were saying that this app, the Kendara app, is targeted towards women that do want to become pregnant. So that makes sense. That makes sense. Okay, but I wanted to know more about that one stat of 25% accuracy. See, so this is interesting to look at the temperature. So the waking temperature. This is like the average for women. It increases. It increases right when you're ovulating. But again, this is on average. Not everybody's cycle is exactly the same, so that's why there's variability here. But yeah, if you were to wake up every single morning and check your temp, once you start seeing it go up, like this, you see how it's all flat, 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 and then you go up, it means ovulation's happening somewhere in here. So here's the, oh my gosh, that terrible thing called cervical mucus. God forbid we talk about this. But this is interesting. It looks like there's, oh, I see. Yeah, the temp, that's the thing. So that's one way that women can track their cycles with the temp. Yeah, this is very known. I remember whenever I was a kid, my mom had friends that, you know, the family, a married couple, and they had a lot of children. And I remember one time I was hanging out, we were all hanging out at their house, and my mom took me into their bedroom to go get something, and I saw like a thermometer on the bedside table. And I asked my mom if they were sick. And she was like, no, that's their birth control. I was a very young kid. I didn't really understand. I just like had heard that, oh, okay, you can use your temperature to know if you're fertile or not. And so this, yeah, this shows you. This is it. So this is, I think, from the 2 different apps. Yeah, the Sympto and the Kendara. And you can see they're kind of same. The temp going up. I mean, this is like a very easy, non-abrasive way of doing this work, you know, versus like, I think the one that's the most challenging for women could be the cervical position, but this is the one that I feel that's like the most accurate. But it's interesting looking at these charts. Oh, I see. So there's different types of oh, this Kendara app actually breaks it up even more into different types. So you have creamy, watery, little, medium, or lots. So those are sticky. And so you see this spike again right here on, or right before day 14. Day 14 is right when it starts to go up. So then you can see when there's no mucus, there's times of the cycle where there's none. So this is obviously when you're bleeding, there's no mucus, just blood. And then the mucus starts to happen, and then you hit your peak fertility right towards the end of it, and then it goes dry again. It goes dry again. As simple as that. That's not disgusting. Alright, here's the bleeding. Now, we're not really talking about bleeding. Like, everybody wants to talk about bleeding during this stuff, and it's like, that's so unimportant. Oh, so here's the HMM. I've never seen this before, but that's cool. I don't know what any of these acronyms mean, but I mean, it's kind of following those same like kind of spikes in the other chart we were seeing. And this being the fertility time. That 24 to 48 hours. But I don't know what these other acronyms are. I'll have to look those up. I think I'm ready to move on to the next. So what's this? Okay, so oh, that's interesting. Okay, this is interesting. I've never seen anything like this before. Okay, so the probabilities by cycle length. So if you have that 28-day cycle, where that would be somewhere like right here, which is like the average here, I guess. Then that would give you an idea of like where all those different, and the black here, this little peak right here, that's like ovulation time, that's fertility time. But generally, so this is called the what do you call that? Oh, here's all the acronyms. The acronyms, I'm sorry. Okay, so it goes from heavy menses to light menses to low estrogen to high estrogen to ovu to ovulation, rise. But you see where the main variation is for like cycle length is on this side of it. It's on the before the menstruation versus this side. After, or before ovulation, I'm sorry. So after ovulation, no matter what your cycle length is, there's not a whole lot of variability on this side of the chart. But if you look on this side, there's a great amount of variability. So if you have a very long cycle, more than likely this phase before your ovulation is going to be the most variable and different than other women. And then once you ovulate, then you're going to be reaching your menstruation period sooner, or not sooner, but like more commonly with other cycles. And this period right here, where all this blue is, this is a period that they say the vaccines, the COVID vaccines, will affect your cycle. So they are warning that if you are trying to conceive and you are tracking these things here, if you take the vaccine sometime in this, so from here on, all this blue area, if you take your vaccine sometime in that period, it'll affect this period. It'll affect when your ovulation happens. And so if you're trying to conceive and you've been tracking your stuff and you're assuming, okay, my ovulation date's going to be on this time, this is when we need to try. But then you take the vaccine and it shifts your ovulation day either like 3 days this way or 3 days that way. It can really affect your ability to get pregnant on that cycle. It will not affect your ability to get pregnant on other cycles, though. So more than likely, your cycles will regulate themselves back to a normal place. Interesting stuff, huh? Let's see this other article. This is a little bit of an opinion, but I like opinions. Looks like a short one. Oh, here we go. The need to improve fertility awareness. So like, let's see what these people have to say. This was in Reproductive Biomedicine and Society Online. Oh, that sounds like an interesting journal. Women and men globally are delaying the birth of their first child. In the UK, the average age of first conception in women is 29 years, Women experience age-related fertility declines, so it is important that men and women are well informed about this and other aspects of fertility. Yes, that was another thing I did not mention earlier. The importance of this learning for all of us, not just the women and not just the men, but for all of us, is that if we are going to be working within this new society where it is expected that men and women have children later on in their life after they've built their career or whatever, that it's inevitable that fertility health becomes more sticky. And if we don't pay attention to these things, by the time we get to the point that we do want to start making a family, then not to say that it'll be too late, but it'll come as like a total shock to people of like, wow, this is actually a lot more challenging than I had always assumed it to be when I was younger. I always assumed that everybody just gets pregnant like this. It's like, doesn't really happen that way. I mean, the women, they're only fertile for like 24 to 36 hours or 24 to 48 hours every cycle. So you have to be really good at tracking it. And the older you get, the less fertile you are. For both men and women, not just women. I know women always get the freaking slack, and they're always the ones that get accused of baby fever or whatever. But it's like, men have an issue too. Like, their sperm count and sperm mobility does go down in age. Like, it doesn't go away once they hit 50 like women, but it is affected. A group of UK stakeholders have established the Fertility Education Initiative to develop tools and information for children, adults, teachers, parents, and healthcare professionals dedicated to improving knowledge of fertility and reproductive health. Decisions about whether, when, and how to have children should be matters of individual choice, but choice in this area of life relies on having accurate information, and currently awareness about fertility is low. Women and men may not understand their reproductive choices or realize that both unplanned pregnancies and infertility occur commonly in the population. Globally, the age of first conception of men and women is increasing and the overall fertility rate is decreasing. In the UK in 2013, the average age of first-time mothers was 28.3 years, compared to 26.6 in 2001. Wow, that's pretty significant. And over half of all live births, 51, were to mothers aged 30 and over. What? That is incredible. People are delaying parenthood for several reasons, such as undertaking further education, pursuing careers, traveling, finding a partner later in life, and facing the challenges of establishing secure finances and housing. But female fertility declines with age, so that over the age of 35 years, the chance of getting pregnant is significantly decreased. Male fertility also declines with age, partly due to the modifiable lifestyle factors such as diet and alcohol consumption. All right, so you got control on that. Guys out there, men out there, you're wanting to preserve your fertility, you do have control on this. Older fathers more likely to be obese, smokers, and consume more alcohol. In younger men, the trend of abusing anabolic steroids to increase muscle mass is of concern, as they are unlikely to be aware of the damage it does to their fertility. Okay, so there's a big one. Stop using those steroids. International estimates of infertility prevalence report a figure of 9 to 15%, which makes it common among those of childbearing age. Most couples seek medical advice after 1 to 2 years of trying to conceive, meaning that fertility issues are the second most common reason for women to visit their GP after pregnancy. Infertility is considered a major public health issue, but some people are unaware of their own fertility potential, the constraints on their fertility, the signs, symptoms, or preventable causes of fertility problems, or the available assisted reproductive technology that can shape their reproductive lives. In particular, there is a lack of awareness of individual variation in terms of how fertility declines with age. One woman may be functionally infertile at 37, another at 44. The media perpetuates misinformation by highlighting individual cases of conception in later years and suggesting that assisted reproductive technologies such as IVF can compensate fully for age-related decline in fertility. The Human Fertilization and Embryology Authority data shows that live birth rate from assisted reproductive technology is 32.3% for females aged below 35 years, but decreases to 13.6% for ages 40 to 42 and 5% for ages 43 to 44. As a result, an increasing number of men and women are finding that they have inadvertently missed their reproductive chance. The percentage of childless people at age 44 in the UK is now 20%. Eric, are you still here? Do you believe that? 20% of people in the UK are childless in 2015. That's okay. That's perfectly okay. Now, if they're childless outside of their powers of them, that's... It's crazy, but it's good. It is. It is what it is. Like if that like scares you, it's definitely something to think about. It's something for everybody to think about. Like, we're all like working so hard and hustling so hard, like totally forgetting about these things and not thinking about them. Poor fertility knowledge will be a contributory factor to many people not achieving their goal of parenthood. Understanding the reproductive cycle and fertility are essential for both effective use of contraception to control fertility and for planning a pregnancy. This includes education to help women and men understand how their individual fertility may decline with age based on a combination of genetic and lifestyle factors. Fertility education should be an integral part of comprehensive sex and relationships education in all schools to ensure children and young people have a sound foundation of knowledge. Yeah, I did not get that. Eric, your feelings are valid, your ideas are valid, and it's totally cool that we're talking about this. Totally normal, totally cool. And perhaps in this conversation happening, could give you some new energy or new perspective on your ideas, and help you, and really pinpointing what you want in life. What you want for your best life. But yeah, I didn't learn any of this in sex ed. I did have a sex ed class when I was in middle school. And I think it was middle school. And yeah, we didn't hear anything of it. It was just like, use a condom. The teacher was too afraid of talking anything else. I think they did talk about periods just to let the boys know about the periods, but nothing else. Like, so stupid. Like, really should have like taught us more of this stuff and normalizing all of this stuff, and also like normalizing like looking up to the female reproductive system as something like sacred and something very special and powerful. I have my T-Talk banner up this whole time. I didn't even notice. Oh, you don't remember any of yours? I don't like remember in great detail. I remember it not being very like inspiring. And yeah, I didn't feel like empowered that So this has left many children and young people ill-equipped to make informed choices about their reproductive lives and relationships. In March 2017, following overwhelming support for statutory SRE, most recently demonstrated by a letter from 5 parliamentary select committees, the UK government announced proposals for statutory status. This is a huge opportunity to ensure children and young people understand their bodies and receive accurate information about fertility and reproductive choices. However, much will depend on the accompanying guidance for schools and investment in teacher training. Taking into account the lack of fertility education throughout the UK, and to help ensure all women and men are able to make informed choices, a group of stakeholders have set up the Fertility Education Initiative. The FEI is led by the British Fertility Society in partnership with the Royal College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists, the Faculty of Sexual and Reproductive Healthcare, Sex Education Forum, Brooks Sexpression, that's a cool word. All right, all these programs. They want an accurate information about fertility addressed in schools and provided to adult women and men through reliable and trusted sources, such as the Tila T Twitch channel. It's developing a number of interactive tools for teachers, young people, parents, and health professionals with the aim of increasing fertility awareness and ensuring all women and men are able to make well-informed choices about their reproductive lives. The provision of accurate fertility information must now become a mandatory part of the education curriculum to increase fertility awareness. As with all areas of health, to stay healthy, one needs to be empowered with knowledge. It is time to ensure that the tools are available now to those who will be facing the realities of childbearing in the 21st century. Yeah, so let's just do like a quick, I'm gonna do a quick little like news search. People becoming infertile. I have been seeing this as like a common headline in the news, like a shock and awe type of thing, like we're becoming infertile. Well, so this article is blaming plastics, and that makes sense. This is an interesting little clickbait. Let's see. I don't know if this is something relevant, but it's clickbait for sure. Spermageddon! Could men be infertile by 2045? What? Alright, before we watch this little video, let's like see what is written. This is from Sky News. I don't know how reliable Sky News is. I've never... Yeah, this was published this last week, so this is a new one. Men are becoming increasingly less fertile. A study found that sperm counts in the West have dropped nearly 60% in the past 40 years. According to that study, if sperm counts continue to decrease at this rate, they are set to reach 0 by 2045. What is hijacking our fertility, and could we be on the brink of extinction? So this podcast is having Shauna Swan, an environmental and reproductive oh, that's funny. Yeah, 60%. I want to know where this study is. They did not link to a study. So I want to see what they're referring to here. So The Guardian, all right, so here's NPR. I do like to look at NPR as a solid source. So this was published in 2017, so this is old news. Sperm counts appear to be plummeting throughout the Western world according to a large study of men around the world. An international team of scientists analyzed data from nearly 43,000 men in dozens of industrialized countries and found that sperm counts dropped by more than half over nearly 4 decades. I think that we should take this very seriously. Oh, and this is the woman that's in that podcast. I think it's a wake-up call. Previous studies have suggested that sperm counts may be falling around the world. This study is the largest and most comprehensive to date. It was designed to resolve doubts over the earlier findings. I've always been skeptical to previous reports that have suggested that sperm counts are declining. I'm a bit more of a believer that sperm counts are declining than I was this time yesterday. Even at this reduced sperm counts, infertility has not become a widespread problem. At the most, the lower levels of sperm may make it harder for some couples to conceive. But there's no sign the decline is slowing, which means that male infertility could become a more common problem in the future. Since this is the best study that I've ever done, that's ever been done, it is concerning that it suggests such a progressive and dramatic decrease in sperm counts over time. They suggest, however, that more research is needed to confirm the findings and try to determine possible causes. Since we don't know what could be causing it, it's worrisome. Swan and her colleagues combed the scientific literature for studies that had examined sperm counts and concentrations and screened more than 7,000 studies, excluding those that had shortcomings or flaws. The researchers then analyzed data collected by 185 studies of 42,935 men who provided semen samples between 1973 and 2011. One of the ways the researchers tried to alleviate concerns about previous studies was to include men who weren't just being tested at fertility clinics because they might be infertile. They included sperm counts from other men, soldiers, and college students, for example. The analysis found that overall 52.4% decline, and so it wasn't 60, Eric, it was 52.4, so that other article bumped it up a little bit, but 52.4, 59.3, yeah, okay, that's pretty high. In the total sperm count over 39-year period. Sperm concentration is a measure of the concentration of sperm in a man's sample. How many millions of sperm are in a milliliter of semen? Total sperm count is the number doctors get when they multiply that by the volume of the sample. I think these are extremely concerning findings, Swan says, and Swan says it's not just the concern about fertility. A decreased sperm count has been linked to increased risk of premature death, she says. So it may be a marker for other health problems. Well, no one knows why sperm counts and concentrations may be falling. There are a variety of theories. All right, let's hear the theories. She suspects that one factor may be exposure to chemicals while in the womb, which could harm the normal development of males' reproductive systems. The mother's exposure to a number of chemicals can alter the reproductive tract of baby boys significantly. But Pacey questions that theory and worries about alarming pregnant women unnecessarily. Well, let's not be exposed to those chemicals. Like, why not? No need to alarm pregnant women. We should all be talking about it. There's a real danger here that researchers publish papers like this that are then reported irresponsibly, that then lead to people getting really paranoid about what may or may not be happening, he says. The problems many couples encounter when they attempt to get pregnant could be avoided if they started trying just a few years earlier, Pacey says. Swan acknowledges that other factors could be playing a role. The global obesity epidemic could be cutting sperm counts, for example. There's also stress, which is related to sperm count, she says. So there's a number of factors which you could cluster under the heading of modern living that could be playing a role in what we're seeing. So the next thing we'll see is that the vaccine is lowering sperm count. Because the vaccine is pretty stressful on our body. I don't know if you all had your vaccine yet, but it is pretty darn stressful on the body. So, kind of seems inconclusive, but it's a thing. It's a thing. So, like, I guess even though they have realized this sperm count reduction, they have not seen fertility problems yet. It hasn't caught up with it yet. But maybe it's just like an adaptive thing too. Like, several generations ago, it was like commonplace for all types of people from all types of communities around the world to like your production of children was attached to your like success in life. Like you had more people to help you in the home, you had, and so like men were conceiving a lot more children. Also there was like I shouldn't say poly, but what do you call that whenever there's multiple wives? Polygamy. Yeah. There's like polygamy that used to be a very common practice in cultures around the world. It still is in some cultures, but in the Western world, where they've seen this decline, polygamy has been scratched out. So you're not seeing men achieving success through 30 to 60 children. So they don't need the high sperm count for that. So that could just be like a natural evolution of the body over time in those generations. But, you know, some other articles were saying that it's plastic. Or chemicals that mothers are exposed to. But there's one last thing I want to look at. Read a news article. About how is there nothing on the top page about this? Alright, so I don't know how good this article is. Like a few years ago when I first heard about this, there was a ton of coverage on it. Now there's not that much coverage, so I'm wondering if there's been some type of spin in the media to like eliminate this problem. Let me get rid of these ads. This is terrible. So many freaking ads. Okay, the shocking reason why thousands of young men are resorting to Viagra. I do not want that. Is this thing kidding? What is that? Let me just fix this. All right, so the shocking reason why thousands of young men are resorting to Viagra. With increasing numbers of under 30s affected by impotence, experts warn that relying on the little blue pills may be masking serious health dangers. What is this? Young men on Viagra? Why? Let's read on. A recent survey found 18% of 18 to 24-year-old men had erection difficulties. 18%. 18 to 24-year-olds. That's when they're supposed to be in their prime. Isn't that what we learned in that dumb movie, American Pie? A doctor is increasingly aware erectile dysfunction may be a sign of underlying disease. In 2018, Viagra was declared safe enough to be made available over the counter. So the phrase drug-fueled sex has a very different meaning for 23-year-old student Greg Banks compared with the popular perception of it. For rather than indicating outrageous behavior, Greg needs to take Viagra to guarantee performance. He started using the drug when he was 18 because he had problems with sex. If he was drinking on a night out, and now takes it 3 times a week. Now Greg, who has had only 2 long-term girlfriends, said he would like to stop taking Viagra. It cost me about 250 pounds a year, which isn't great when you're a student, but I think I've become psychologically dependent on it, he admits. This is strange. Greg, who lives in Slough, Berkshire, and is in the final year of a degree in film studies at a northern university, is just one of a growing wave of young men affected by erectile problems. A recent survey of 5,000 people carried out for Upjohn, the maker of Viagra Connect, the over-the-counter version of the drug, showed that 18% of 18 to 24-year-old men had erection difficulties. This echoes what clinicians are seeing. I have been in this field for 27 years, and 20% of my erectile dysfunction patients are now aged under 30. Eric, I don't know if this is truth, but it seems outrageous, right? Compared with 2% 20 years ago. I'm seeing boys as young as 16 and quite a lot of young men in their 20s. It has worrying implications as well. Many of the new generation of teenage and young adult Viagra users are otherwise physically fit males, such as Greg, who uses as a prop to ensure sexual performance. Others are suffering sexual difficulties and impotence caused by obesity and obesity-related type 2 diabetes. This is a problem previously seen only in much older patients and is causing concern. However, there are multiple reasons why young men may be affected by problems in the bedroom, including the rising use of pornography, binge drinking, and drug taking, as these mean they need more stimulation to make anything happen. Doctors are now increasingly aware that erectile dysfunction might be a sign of underlying disease and fear that young men may be self-prescribing Viagra. As a result, the real cause of their issues remain untreated despite it being treatable in their 20s. So they still have a whole life to live. And they're, never going to address the true problems of what's going on. There's no doubt that type 2 diabetes causes it, and a 30-year-old diabetic is at least twice or 3 times as likely as a non-diabetic to suffer from erectile dysfunction. Studies suggest the problem is widespread. In 2015, doctors at the University of British Columbia in Vancouver, Canada, screened 1,417 men aged 20 and above and found that more than 11% of those with erectile dysfunction had undiagnosed diabetes. Oh, interesting. Meanwhile, the author of a review of studies in 2017, which found that 30% of men aged over 18 were affected by impotence, suggesting that weak erections might be a sign of early cardiovascular risk in young men. The now universally recognized Little Blue Pill was launched 22 years ago as the first effective erectile dysfunction treatment and became the world's best-selling drug. The treatment, the chemical name is sildenafil, was originally developed by British scientists for patients with heart disease. Oh, that's interesting. I did not know that. You learn something every day, huh? It works by relaxing the smooth muscles on the walls of blood vessels to increase blood flow. A side effect, which has now become the main purpose of its use, is that this also allows greater quantities of blood to flow into during arousal and produces a stronger and longer-lasting erection. In 2018, Viagra was declared safe enough to be made available over the counter. Those wanting to buy the pills have to complete a basic online questionnaire, which, according to Greg, simply involves a level of judicious fabrication about the severity of the problem. The pills, which cost around £5 each, are made available for collection within a couple of days. Yet, according to doctors, the biggest cause of ED is type 2 diabetes. So rather than using Viagra, many men may instead benefit from losing weight. Again, how are they going to make money? How are they going to make money? There are around 4.2 million people with type 2 diabetes in Britain, and an estimated 1 million who are living with the condition but who haven't yet had a formal diagnosis. Around 30% of men with diabetes will have some kind of erectile dysfunction in their lifetime. Men with diabetes are 3 times more likely to have the problem, confirms Douglas 24. According to data from the NHS Digital, about 60% of 25-year-old men in Britain are considered overweight, and significantly numbers have type 2 diabetes and so-called metabolic syndrome. So that's it. Oh, look at that. Oh, that's fun. That's a cool ad. I'm in the ad. Woo! Oh, man. Well, this has been fun. This has been fun talking about sex, not talking about sex. Eric, we'll chat after the stream is done. I hope I didn't keep you up too late. Yeah, that was a fun ad. I wasn't expecting that. So yeah, we learned a lot today, huh? I hope you learned. I learned. What was the main thing that I learned? I mean, over the past like month, I've been learning so much. And that's why I was like enthusiastic to come on here and talk about it. I was like really debating, is it really appropriate to talk about these things on my stream? But after, so many of my friends and peers in the tea industry sharing information about the effects the vaccine has on fertility, I thought, we need to talk about it. Let's talk about it. And I think it's super empowering. If you are a woman, I highly recommend that you start using one of these apps. Like in the other article we looked at, there's so many apps. You can just go into your app store on your phone and just find one that connects with you. There's so many. And at the very least, just start tracking your periods. And in time, as you get more comfortable with it, try to start tracking other things. And the most important thing of all of this is trying to normalize having these conversations with our friends and our family and on the internet, and like, how long? We've been online for 2 hours between Reddit, which I believe we had like 500 or so people come hang out, and everybody that came out on Twitch and other channels. I don't think anybody got sexually uncomfortable. I was never sexualized. I never sexualized anybody else. And we spent 2 hours talking about sex. So it is very possible that the only way it's possible is if you create that culture and you create that safe place to talk about these things. And it's like, no, we're going to talk about these things in a very intelligent way. We're not going to like, ooh, no. Like, is this like serious stuff? And it's like a big part of our happiness. And it's a big part of us understanding who we are, because at the end of the day, things like breathing, things like drinking water, things like drinking tea, things like eating food are very natural processes for us. But the most natural, the most primal, the most like job that we actually have is in regards to our fertility. Whether we choose to reproduce or not, like, we've been given those tools to do that work. And it's really wise of us to be in touch with those things. So I appreciate you all taking the time to be with me tonight to talk about these things and not to feel uncomfortable. I think this was a really healthy conversation, and I look forward to having more. I don't know the next time I'll talk about sex, because I usually don't talk about sex. I'm usually afraid to do that. I'm like very, very focused on navigating the restorative culture around feminism. And this has been a good step. This is a powerful step. I never would have thought, doing a conversation like this would feel so liberating and good for that goal towards feminism. But yeah, I feel great. I feel accomplished. And Eric, thank you so much for hanging out tonight. I hope you learned something. And yeah, I hope you're drinking good tea. Like I got one less infusion of tea to enjoy. That was so interesting how when the first infusion of this tea, when I first started drinking it, I got so hot. I was like sweating. I'm no longer sweaty. I feel comfortable now. I'm fine now. It was just like for a few minutes there, I just like got so hot. I guess my body wasn't ready for the tea quite yet. All right, let's see who's online. We can go raid. Give them some tea love. All the tea love. Oh, our coffee friend. Our coffee friend is talking about coffee. Oh no, he's not. He went offline. That's too bad. Oh, we can go see Captain Jenny. She does ventriloquism. She's great. She's here in Las Vegas. No, yes, the coffee streamer is offline. Eric, coffee, no. Oh, she's singing on a ukulele and she's all orange. That'd be so funny if we go to her channel and she asks what we talked about. I'd wonder how she'd deal with that, because she has a very, very large audience, and I believe that she gets sexualized a lot with her audience, which is unfortunate. Yeah, let's go check her out, Eric. Let's go hang out. Her name is Jen. Her name was something else. Maybe Jen for short. But she does ventriloquism. Let's go hang out with her. Give her some tea love. She's all orange. I love that. Power colors. But thank you all for hanging out with me tonight. I love you all so much. I hope you have a beautiful weekend. I hope you get lots of good rest. And I will see you next week.